In a landmark decision, the U.S. Supreme Court has struck down the legal foundation of Donald Trump's signature tariff policy, shaking the core of his America First agenda. The ruling has ignited a political firestorm and sent global markets into turmoil. Trump's tariffs were more than taxes. They were a bold shift in U.S. foreign policy, aimed at challenging China and protecting American jobs. Supporters saw them as overdue protection for American workers, while critics warned of damaged alliances and higher costs for consumers. At the heart of the case, does the president have the authority to impose sweeping tariffs without Congress? The court's answer, no. The legislative branch must have a say in international trade. This decision redraws the boundaries of executive power, setting a precedent for future presidents. The impact will ripple from Washington to Main Street, affecting prices, jobs, and America's role in the world. Political fallout is immediate, with both parties scrambling to define their positions ahead of the midterms. The nation faces a pivotal moment, forced to reconsider its economic identity and global standing. This ruling is more than policy, it's a fundamental check on presidential authority. The world is watching as America's trade future is rewritten. The debate over tariffs and executive power is far from over. The Supreme Court has set the stage for a new era in American trade policy. Trump's tariff saga began in his 2016 campaign, promising to rip up trade deals and get tough on countries like China. Once in office, he imposed tariffs on steel, aluminum, and hundreds of billions in Chinese goods, marking a sharp break from decades of bipartisan support for free trade. Trump's tariff man persona resonated with voters who felt left behind by globalization. The legal basis for these tariffs relied on laws meant for national security and unfair trade practices, but critics argued these justifications were stretched to the breaking point. Allies like Canada and the EU were hit, sparking accusations of misuse and retaliation. The trade war led to counter-tariffs on American products, hurting farmers and manufacturers. Some companies moved production home, but many faced higher costs and uncertainty. The economic impact was hotly debated. Supporters pointed to job growth, while opponents cited higher prices for consumers. Legal challenges mounted, questioning whether the president could act unilaterally. The stage was set for a Supreme Court showdown that would decide the limits of presidential power on trade. The tariffs became a symbol of Trump's combative approach to global economics. The fallout reshaped industries, alliances, and the political landscape. Today's ruling is the culmination of years of legal and economic conflict. The debate over America's trade strategy is far from settled. The legacy of Trump's tariffs will echo for years to come. The Supreme Court's 6-3 decision in U.S. Chamber of Commerce v. Department of Commerce declared Trump's tariffs unconstitutional. Chief Justice Roberts wrote that Congress cannot hand over broad economic powers to the president without clear guidelines. The court found national security was too vague a justification for sweeping tariffs. This ruling narrows presidential authority to use tariffs as a unilateral tool. Dissenting justices warned the decision could weaken future presidents' ability to respond to global threats. The immediate effect? Existing tariffs are void, and the government must unwind them, a process that could take years. Billions in collected tariffs and countless businesses are affected. The legal and logistical challenges ahead are immense. The ruling marks a major shift in the balance of power between Congress and the White House. The court's message trade policy must be rooted in law, not executive whim. The era of unchecked presidential tariffs is over. Trump wasted no time blasting the Supreme Court's decision on social media, calling it a betrayal of American workers and an attack on his legacy. He accused the justices, including his own appointees, of siding with globalists and China. Trump's message: the court is now a political enemy, not an impartial institution. He vowed to make the ruling a rallying cry for his supporters, framing it as proof the system is rigged. Plans for rallies and campaign events are already underway, with Trump promising to fight for his America First vision. His allies in Congress echoed his outrage, demanding new laws to restore presidential tariff power. The GOP is split. Some back Trump's combative stance, others welcome the court's check on executive overreach. The decision has become a flashpoint in the 2026 election cycle. Trump's response ensures the legal battle will fuel a new political war over trade and presidential power. The lines are drawn for a fierce fight over America's economic future. The Supreme Court's ruling is just the beginning. Trump's base is energized, and the political stakes have never been higher. The nation braces for a prolonged and bitter conflict. The Supreme Court's decision has upended Washington, forcing both parties to recalibrate. The White House is caught between supporting the rule of law and not appearing weak on trade. Democrats and some Republicans hail the ruling as a victory for constitutional checks and balances. Senate leaders praise the court for reining in executive overreach. Trump's allies condemn the decision, deepening GOP divisions between free traders and protectionists. The ruling hands Democrats a potent campaign issue, while Republicans face tough choices about their party's direction. Primary races are now battlegrounds over trade and presidential power. Congress must decide whether to rewrite trade laws or reclaim authority from the executive branch. Powerful business interests, labor unions, and ideological factions are gearing up for a legislative showdown. The fallout will shape campaign ads, debates, and the future of American trade policy. The decision forces a national debate. Who should control America's economic destiny? The political aftershocks will be felt for years. Washington is bracing for a new era of legislative and ideological conflict. The Supreme Court has forced a reckoning on trade, power, and the Constitution. The stakes for 2026 and beyond are enormous. The battle for America's economic soul is just beginning. For consumers, the end of tariffs could mean lower prices on everyday goods, but not overnight. Supply chains need time to adjust, but relief at the checkout is on the horizon. Businesses that rely on imports will see costs drop, boosting competitiveness. Industries once shielded by tariffs like steel and aluminum now face tough foreign competition and possible job losses. The effects will be uneven. Some sectors win, others lose. Farmers, hit hard by retaliatory tariffs, may finally see export markets reopen and incomes recover. The stock market is volatile as investors bet on new winners and losers. Economists predict a boost to growth, but warn of pain in manufacturing communities. The ruling triggers a period of economic readjustment, with inflation, jobs, and trade deficits in flux. The government faces the challenge of unwinding billions in tariffs and supporting affected industries. The long-term impact is uncertain, but a major shift is underway. The decision is a turning point for American families, businesses, and the broader economy. The nation must adapt to a new trade reality. The consequences will be felt in every corner of the country. Legal scholars call the ruling a landmark for the separation of powers, limiting presidential authority even in foreign affairs. Some conservative analysts warn it's judicial overreach, arguing Congress intended to give the president broad trade powers. Economists like Paul Krugman see the end of tariffs as a win for consumers and economic efficiency. Others, like Peter Navarro, argue the U.S. is now vulnerable to unfair trade practices, especially from China. Political scientists say the decision forces future presidents to work with Congress, making big policy changes harder. The ruling is part of a broader trend, the Supreme Court reigning in executive power. Trade experts warn that removing tariffs doesn't solve deeper issues with China, like intellectual property theft. The U.S. must now craft new constitutional strategies for global competition. The debate over how to protect American interests is just beginning. The ruling changes the playbook for presidents and lawmakers alike. Negotiation and compromise will be essential, but gridlock is a real risk. The legal, economic, and political implications are profound. America's approach to trade and executive power is being rewritten. The world is watching how the U.S. adapts. The Supreme Court's decision sent ripples through global capitals and markets. European leaders welcomed the ruling as a step toward rules-based trade and mending transatlantic ties. Asian allies like Japan and South Korea expressed hope for reduced trade friction. China's state media framed the decision as a failure of U.S. protectionism, but official response remains cautious. Global investors cheered, with markets rising and commodity prices falling on expectations of fewer trade barriers. The U.S. dollar fluctuated as traders assessed the long-term impact. International observers warn that American politics remain volatile. Future presidents or Congress could revive tariffs. Relief is tempered by uncertainty about the durability of this policy shift. The world is watching to see if the U.S. truly embraces open trade or if protectionism will return. The global trading system remains fragile. America's next moves will shape the world economy. The Supreme Court's decision marks the end of an era and the start of a new chapter in American trade. The Biden administration and Congress must now unwind the tariffs and craft a new strategy. The challenge balancing support for workers with the realities of global competition. The debate over free trade versus protectionism is far from settled. Every American will feel the impact, from prices to job opportunities. The ruling is a reminder that government decisions shape our daily lives. America must decide, isolation or global leadership. The Supreme Court has spoken. but the future is up to all of us. The path chosen now will define prosperity and America's place in the world. The story of American trade is being rewritten by leaders, voters, and history itself.